Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Daniel
With Dan Irvin.
Well, in Daniel chapter 4, verse 33, again, we see that King Nebuchadnezzar, the mighty king of Babylon, was driven away from his people, and he ate grass like a wild ox. Now, this is not just some sort of strange detail thrown in here for no reason. I think this is significant to see Nebuchadnezzar in this light, to see him not just losing everything that he has seemingly built, everything that is so important to him, but he lost his sense of dignity. He became less than human here in a moment. He tried to live life without God at the center. He tried to put his achievements, his rank, his accomplishments first. You see, when we live like this, when he lived like this, it doesn't just distort, our view of ourselves, but really we become, in a sense, less than human. We place ourselves in a position that only God should occupy, building an identity that is separate from him. We think this might give us freedom and true autonomy, but really it leads to us, to human beings, being disconnected, being less than free, being captive to the land, being bound by things that were never meant to satisfy. You see, we can either worship and serve the Creator and become more fully what we were intended to be, or we can worship the creation, the created order, and become less than what we were ever made to be. Nebuchadnezzar had everything he could ever want, that most of us could ever dream of: power, wealth, status, the top of the top. But he refused to acknowledge that God was the one who gave it to him. And he was reduced here in this sense to living like an animal. Pride in this sense, it's more than just self-importance or elevating ourselves, but it's this deep self-centeredness that detaches us from reality and drives us to a picture like we see here. We see in Revelation 13 another connection. There's a scene where in verse 4 it talks about that they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast and who can fight against it?" Again, this beast, it's more than just this literal figure. It's this symbol of humanity separated from God, glorifying its own strength, becoming not connected to God, but subhuman in a sense. When we live without this moral and spiritual connectedness that only comes from God, when we replace it with our own pride, we become less than human. And there's another story in Scripture that I think this scene reminds me of. Luke chapter 15, the prodigal son, if you're familiar with it. We often think about this story as being about this great rebellion. The younger son says to a father, "Give me my share of the inheritance." And his father gives him everything. In other words, he wants the kingdom, but not the king. And where does that path lead him? Well, it takes him to this place where he is longing to eat what the pigs eat. He becomes so hungry, so demoralized that he is just hoping to get scraps. And just like King Nebuchadnezzar, his pride has brought him to this place, and not because God is cruel, but because perhaps this is what happens when we build our lives without God, and God is using this as a moment to draw him back. You and I, we were made to walk with God, to know God, to reflect God. And when we push him out of the way, we break down. Our lives break down. And here's the grace that comes in. Luke chapter 15, the son comes to his senses. He remembers his father's house. He gets up, he returns home. And what do we see his father do in this moment? He runs towards him. He embraces him. He clothes him. He throws a party. He kills the fattened calf. He restores him. You see, Jesus is the true older brother in Luke 15, the younger brother. He's the one who left his home not to chase his own glory, but to rescue us. He was stripped of his dignity and treated like a criminal on the cross, dehumanized, mocked, beaten, spit upon, so that when we come to our senses, there could be mercy waiting for us. There could be mercy at the cross. We were made for the glory of God. And in Jesus, that glory, it doesn't crush us. It restores us. It lifts us. It makes us fully human, as we were intended to be.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.